Tavaglione.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to be here today at UCR. And before I even tell you a little bit about John Tavaglione, let's congratulate the UCR Medical School for their accreditation yesterday. Yes, great stuff. I will tell you, Riverside County, my colleagues and I were very thankful to be a part of that, and we're just looking forward to next term, so we get it underway. As I mentioned, I'm John Tavaglione, former commercial real estate broker, and member of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. My roots are here in Riverside, California, Riverside County, and that's why I'm so proud to be here today. My family goes back 4 generations. My mother's side settled here in 1887, believe it or not, with my great-grandfather, her grandfather, owning and operating a carriage shop out on North Main Street, before motor-driven vehicles. And so that's why it makes me very proud, especially proud, to be here today in front of all of you, running for this new seat for Riverside City and County. I attended attended schools all through Riverside, City of Riverside, graduated from Ramona High School. Immediately right after graduating from high school, started my own business, held that for 2 years before marrying my wife Jan, and then going off to serve in the United States Army. Subsequent to that, I spent 25 years in the private sector. And following that, 10 years along with the private sector as a reserve police officer in the city of Riverside. After raising our kids, at the age of 38, I went back to school, got my college degree at California Baptist College, and then subsequent attended the executive program here at University of California, Riverside. I've been honored to be a member of the Board of Supervisors. I'm in my 5th term and currently their chair. Been through some very exciting times and also some very challenging times, as we are in right now. Stop already. Boy. And I look forward to the opportunity of talking about the issues this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
That 2 minutes went quick.
Now to audience questions. Last call for turning in cards that have questions on them. So raise your hand if you need them, and somebody will come by and pick them up. So the first questions would be to Mr. Tavaglione, since he was second on the opening statements. The group wants to know, the public constantly hears from candidates that jobs are the #1 priority. In a region where unemployment is high, tell us your specific plan to bring jobs to the district. Who will you work with, and what will it look like to John and Jane Q. Public?
I think we just need to go back on our track record, my track record. Just in the last year, since 2009 actually, the county created our Department of Foreign Trade. We have now foreign trade agreements, memorandums of understanding with 20 countries. And what has that done? That's opened up trade opportunities for manufacturers here in Riverside County to build their goods and services and sell them overseas. It's created 40,000 jobs since 2009. I was instrumental in the 91 freeway expansion that you see now and have to deal with the congestion, which I know is a pain. But we have 16,000 jobs created from that program, and that's a $600 million program. We just approved the 91 freeway expansion from Corona all the way through to Pierce. That's going to create 16,000 jobs, along with $1.3 billion in investment. Those are the types of things that I will take to U.S. Congress through experience and understanding of how to get the job done.
Thank you. Mr. Takano, your turn.
Well, let me just say, to begin with, that for all of Mr. Tavaglione's experience at job creation at the county, it really hasn't amounted to much, because we have 12% unemployment, which is the highest unemployment rate in the state of California, among the highest in the nation, above the average at least. So all these jobs he's talking about haven't netted out to much of a gain. You know, Congress is broken. They have stood in the way of job creation. They have not passed the American Jobs Act. They've stood in the way of things that should attract bipartisan support. Items such as tax breaks for businesses that provide, that hire more people. A real transportation bill, a full 5-year transportation bill that would have put more of our construction workers back to work. But this Republican ideological Congress stood in the way of that. We could, as a community college trustee, I'm really disappointed that they did not pass aid to community colleges, so we could have kept more of our doors open and expanded our training programs to train more of our people for the jobs that do exist. President Clinton talked about 3 million jobs in this country going unfilled because we lack to train people to fill them.
Thank you. Mr. Tavaglione, would you like a response in
I
30
would.
seconds?
I would. You know, yes, we do have currently a 12.5% unemployment rate, but that's fallen by 3.5% in the last 3 years. And why has that fallen by 3.5%? Because we've been proactive in finding creative ways to put people back to work. We were hit the hardest in the state of California because we were the most active growth area in the state of California for 4 years. So when the construction trades went away, so did the employment. Now we're going to have to rebuild that, and we do that through people that know how to get the job done, like me.
Thank you. Mr. Takano, you're first with this next one. ARP would like to know, how would you put Medicare on stronger financial ground and strengthen it for future generations?
Well, I actually, applaud the president for strengthening Medicare by closing the prescription drug donut hole. I'm the only candidate who has signed a pledge to protect Medicare, to protect the benefits of Medicare, and to not turn it into voucher care. I've invited my opponent several times to sign that pledge, not only to sign the pledge not to turn it into voucher care, but also to refuse to vote for any speaker that will make Paul Ryan the chairman of the Budget Committee. Medicare is a sacred promise we made to our seniors. It's a benefit. They're benefits they've earned over a lifetime. As your member of Congress, I will do everything possible to make sure that we keep that promise.
Thank you.
Oh, there's no doubt we have to protect Medicare. We have too many seniors that are dependent on Medicare, and we have to ensure that it is maintained. And I will commit to you, the public, that we will maintain that. I don't sign pledges. I don't sign pledges to Grover Norquist, the non-tax advocate. I don't sign pledges to anyone other than to the voters who elect me to office. That's what I'm elected to do. So I appreciate Mark asking for that, but I have refused to continue to sign pledges to anyone. The only pledge that I ever signed was my wife's pledge to marry her 44 years ago. And continue, and we love each other to death. But Medicare must be maintained, but yet Medicare must be reformed. It must be reformed to become more efficient, at the same time protect the seniors that are depending on it. One way you reform it is to get the $716 billion back that they pulled out of Medicare to put into the Affordable Care Act. That has to go back into Medicare. In addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you firsthand, there's billions of dollars of fraud and abuse in Medicare, and they need to address that first before they start talking about how they're going to cut it.
Mr. Takano, do you have a rebuttal?
I do. I'm disappointed that John Tavaglione wants to persist in telling this lie about the $716 billion. It is not something, thank you. It is an absolute lie. He knows very well that Paul Ryan proposed the same thing, but only Paul Ryan just took it straight out. What Obama did is he took the $716 billion out from payments to insurance companies, put the money back in to extend the life of Medicare, and also close the prescription drug donut hole so our seniors aren't nickel and dimed into poverty.
Thank you. The next question is first for Mr. Tavaglione. Riverside League of Women Voters would like to know, are corporations people? Please explain, especially in regard to campaign financing.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Are corporations people? Explain in relation to campaign financing, your view.
Campaign financing, I'm not making the tie between
Well, I think
corporations.
what this is getting at is the Supreme Court said that corporations are people and therefore can give unlimited.
Thank you. Well, the Supreme Court, I'm not going to argue with the Supreme Court, as I wouldn't argue with them on the Affordable Care Act. Do I think that there is too much money put into all levels of campaigning? Absolutely. Do I think that if they pass a law or any type of restriction on campaign financing reform, that it's going to change things? No, because with every reform they find a way around it. It's been proven here in the state of California.
Mr. Takano?
Well, to answer the question, of course the Supreme Court got it wrong. Corporations are not people. People live, they breathe, they feel, they die. Corporations don't have to die. They can go on forever. To say that corporations should be able to give unlimited amounts of money, just as I'm seeing huge amounts of corporate money being tossed into this race right now, hurling unfounded claims. They're saying that I'm for raising taxes on small businesses when I've actually said the opposite. This is an unprecedented amount of money that I've seen in 1 week. It's $220,000. We must end this. I'm going to go to Congress to make sure that we address this error that the Supreme Court made in their judgment.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Once again, I think corporations are people. Corporations are made up of people, investors, individuals that are the lifeblood, as is small business, of our U.S. economy. And without corporations or small business, our U.S. economy doesn't survive. They are the ones that built America, not government.
Oh,
Mr. Takano, the next question, is the term war on women justified?
As far as what this ideological Republican Congress has done, yes, it is justified. It was a war on women to hold up the budget, not on abortion and funding Planned Parenthood, but over the question of contraception and women's health. It is justified. The idea that women who live in Indian reservations are not protected from spousal abuse. These are ridiculous. This is a ridiculous ideological Republican Congress that I'm going to go to redress. Thank you.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Well, this is an area where Mark and I are going to agree. I think that we need to do everything we can to protect the women of our country and give them the rights and continue the rights that they already have. But at the same time, you know, when we talk about contraception, when we talk about abortion versus pro-choice, we're not on the abortions question, but I'm a pro-choice individual. I think a woman should be the one making her own decisions. And women, I sit alongside many women in our county organization, and I will tell you, they're a heck of a lot sharper than many of the men that are in our organization.
Mr. Takano, do you have a response?
Well, I'm glad that Mr. Tavaglione says he supports choice, but again, I think what he says in the end won't matter, because on the first day of the organization of the new Congress on January 3rd, he's going to vote for John Boehner. And John Boehner, and that's simply going to empower the Washington Republican ideology, which got us into this mess and who perpetuated the war on women in the first place.
Thank you. Okay, the next question. Can we depend on you to serve with an open mind and willingness to compromise with others to make important decisions about our national debt, Social Security, Medicare, etc.? Mr. Tavaglione?
Let me tell you why in my opening remarks, I didn't get a chance to touch on. The only reason I'm going to U.S. Congress, the only reason I'm running for U.S. Congress is to make a difference in bringing together a bipartisan effort. Ladies and gentlemen, I sat around watching the debt ceiling debate on my CNN, whatever it was at the time, and I was disgusted by my own party and the Democrats not being able to come together for the benefit of our country. And I looked at that debate, And I looked at my grandchildren sitting next to me, and I'm thinking, my God, what is in their future if we continue down this path of partisan bickering and partisan gridlock in Washington, D.C.? I have experience in this. I've been doing it. I've been married for 44 years. I've compromised in my marriage for 44 years. In the private sector, that's all I did was compromise. And in government, my 5 terms on the Board of Supervisors, I compromise every day with my colleagues. We don't all see eye to eye, but we agree to disagree. And that's what we need back in Washington, D.C. Otherwise, our country is going to fail.
Mr. Takano?
Well, you know, I come from a family of all Republicans except for the new niece, and for a while I was the only Democrat in the family, and we all got along just fine. I've served, 22 years on the Board of Trustees at Riverside Community College, and we've had a bipartisan mix. One of the most successful things that I can point to is when we changed the statewide funding formula for community colleges. Riverside Community College is among the lowest funded community colleges in the state. I told Sal Rotella, if you need to hire Senator Brulte, former Senator Brulte, to be our liaison and work through a legislative strategy, do it. It was on top of the bipartisan effort of the trustees of community colleges all throughout the state. We came together and we raised and equalized Riverside Community College's base funding. I have experience working across the aisle. Heck, even after a bitter election in 1994, I went and visited Ken Calvert, and we got an earmark for Riverside Community College. So yes, you can count on me to work in a bipartisan way to attack our nation's problems.
Thank you. Mr. Tavaglione, do you have a response?
I do. I have a response. You know, ladies and gentlemen, there's an organization in Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives called the Blue Dog Democrats. Those are the conservative Democrats, those that have a tendency or want to work across party lines in order to bring common ground to our nation, just as a moderate Republican like myself. Not the Tea Partiers, but the moderate Republican like myself. Mr. Takano refused to sign a pledge to the Blue Dog Republicans, basically saying, I have no intention of being conservative. I have no intention of working across party lines, and that's a fact.
Thank you. The next question is, list 3 bills you would sponsor or co-sponsor in your first term. Please tell why. This is Mr. Takano.
Let me just say that I do have support from Blue Dog Caucus members, from Joe Baca, right next door, who's a Blue Dog, and Congressman Thompson from the North, who's come to my district. I will work with anyone to bring jobs to Riverside County. Remind me of the question.
List 3 bills you would sponsor or co-sponsor.
Let me just try to get one bill done. I would like to see, besides the American Jobs Act passed, the bill I want to work on is helping young people learn how to become entrepreneurs and providing them with opportunities to access microloans in order to begin the skill learning process to become entrepreneurs. We can do that at the high schools and at the community college, and I think we really need to build a culture of entrepreneurship. That's one of the bills that I would like to work on first.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Yes, thank you. 3 bills. First and foremost, a jobs bill that gets the economy back on track and gets small business back in business. We have too many businesses suffering today. Yes, 47 duplicative training programs in 8 agencies to keep people trained. The people that are going to train young men and women for jobs are the businesses, the small businesses of America. Secondly, a transportation bill that's not 5 years, that's 7 years. And I will tell you why. It takes 15 years oftentimes to get through the federal process to build one bridge. To get 7 years, even a 18-month, 5-year bill is not going to happen. And then finally, I'm going to find a way to structure a program that brings our veterans back into the community and puts them back to work quickly. We have too many veterans coming back into our community from conflict, and they're unemployed, and many of them are homeless, and we need to pass legislation that's going to help them.
Mr. Takano, you have a response?
Well, my response is, this is all well and good, a 5-year, 7-year transportation bill, but the House only passed a 2-year transportation bill after they completely rejected it, after they came to a bipartisan consensus in the Senate. Again, this is not going to work if John goes there to vote for Speaker Boehner and empower the Tea Party Republicans.
Next question for Mr. Tavaglione. First, how would you protect Social Security for today's seniors and strengthen it for future generations?
Well, I think we need to reform Social Security, and again, allow it to be more efficient, and get the federal government to make it more efficient. You know, it's no different than Medicare. Medicare is filled with fraud and abuse. Social Security has fraud and abuse, and the only way we're going to save Medicare, the only way we're going to save Social Security is by making cuts and efficiencies in governmental agencies within the U.S. government. And I can tell you, just working with them firsthand for the last 20 years, there's huge waste.
Mr. Takano?
First of all, let me say that I'm the only candidate to have the support of the National Committee to protect Medicare and Social Security. I'm the only candidate to have pledged to not change Medicare as we know it. I am also firmly committed to not raising the retirement age for Social Security, nor do I favor means testing it. These are benefits that the seniors have earned over a lifetime. No one has the right to take them away, and I'm going to defend those rights to the utmost. Finally, let me say that we must, in order to take pressure off the budget, make the wealthy pay their fair share. That's why I support allowing the Bush tax cuts to expire for those who are earning $250,000 or more.
Mr. Tavaglione, you have a response?
Rebuttal. Well, you know, I'm not in favor as well of increasing the age on Social Security. I am in favor of reforming Social Security so it's sustainable well into the future for those that are young and are going to depend on it as they enter retirement. I will tell you today I had a meeting with one of our retirement systems at the county, and 11% of the employees that put into their retirements, only 11% of employees throughout this retirement system, this is a nationwide system, put into retirement because they're depending too much on Social Security. We need to change that.
Thank you. Next question to Mr. Takano first. As a congressman, how will you eliminate the problem of college graduates not being able to find a job?
Well, we need to expand employment opportunities generally. We need to pass the elements, as I said, of the affordable of the American Jobs Act. We could do much to, and some of those elements are, I've kind of said them before, aid to counties and states to make sure that we can keep firefighters and cops on the job, keep teachers from being laid off. Much of our unemployment here in the county is a result of public sector employment increasing. We've had a slight uptick in small manufacturing, but it's been more than offset by job losses in the public sector. This Republican ideological Congress rejected that part of the American Jobs Act, I'm sorry to say. Again, 3 million jobs that are available to Americans, according to President Clinton, and they're not being filled because we lack the training and the skilled people to fill them. We could be keeping those jobs, we could fill those jobs and making sure that we expand job training programs and establish new ones. I've got a 200-person waiting list at RCC to get into the culinary program. Similar waiting lists exist for the nursing and physician's assistants program.
Mr. Tavaglione?
The way you put students back to work, ladies and gentlemen, is to allow small business to grow. Small business to grow in accordance with free enterprise. Allow them to access capital so that they can reinvest into their businesses and grow their businesses through manufacturing. That is how you create jobs. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the American Association of General Contractors, National Association of Realtors, they have all endorsed me because they know my job performance and job knowing how to allow people to obtain jobs. They know that I know how to get people jobs, and that's why they have endorsed me. And you do it by letting the free market system work.
Mr. Takano? Mr. Takano, your response? No.
It sounds to me that John Tavaglione wants to double down on trickle down. We cannot trust him also on Social Security. I mean, he's no moderate. He raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to re-elect George W. Bush, who then went about trying to privatize Social Security. He knew that. No. Mr. Tavaglione is endorsed by these organizations because they know that he's going to protect tax cuts for the rich at the expense of the middle class.
Next question is, what is the #1 economic challenge that California faces? How does it affect the district, and what is your solution? This was Mr. Tavaglione first.
#1 problem that affects California is California itself. The state legislature and the policies that take place in Sacramento. I've had firsthand experience with the overregulation, the unfriendly business environment, climate that is pushing business away from California and creating more and more unemployment. And that, too, is a result of the state of California and the state legislature and their partisan bickering and inability to get along. And quite frankly, in my view, it's because of lack of experience of many of our electeds back up in Sacramento. That's our #1 problem, in my opinion.
Mr. Takano?
Well, I think the #1 problem is the fact that so many people are out of work and there's not enough revenue from people who are on payrolls to pay taxes. We have a huge problem with the devaluation of property because of the mortgage crisis. This has created quite a bit of a revenue crisis. I believe as a local government, someone in local government, that also we need to rebuild California, restore the authority of local governing boards, because I think that we will restore faith in the ability to get things done at the government level when we give local government officials more authority to get things done. I think people trust the local leaders. They see what they do. They can hold them more accountable. The legislature is somewhat distant, like Washington D.C. is, and I think one of the keys to restoring, I think, our faith in government, period, is to reconnect people I'll give you an example. Student fees are something that I don't control at the local level. That would be something that would be, if it were in my hands, something that we could give the people a choice over locally. And there's, I think, all sorts of ways that I think John would agree that would happen at the county level as well.
Time is up. Mr. Tavaglione, rebuttal?
Well, I think what Mark said is that you need to grow government. I think I heard him say that. In my view, you need to lessen government. You need to downsize government. Government needs to get out of the way of small business. You, as individuals and your family, your ability to grow. in order for our state to grow. And the sooner we can do that, the better and the faster our state will recover.
Next question is for Mr. Takano first. What proposals do you have to streamline regulations for local small businesses?
Well, we can do much as a member of Congress, I'll do everything possible to keep my doors open, to listen to our small businesses. I can assure you that as a teacher in the classroom, I've experienced many of the adverse consequences of the No Child Left Behind law, the unanticipated consequences when people in Washington make decisions. They don't realize how they have ramifications for people at the end, like me, the teacher. So I very much understand much of what a small business person goes through. My mother owns a small business, and she tells me a lot of the struggles she's had with the city, the state. So I think the key thing is that, and also I think people have anxieties over the Affordable Health Care Act and how it's going to be implemented and the burden it might have on business. I certainly, I want to anticipate some of those issues and keep my door open to listen to the concerns of small business people in this community, and I'm committed to making sure that the regulatory burden is not undue.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Well, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I operated and opened my first business 1 month out of high school at the age of 18. I did that for 2 years and continued operating and owning businesses, both small and large, for 25 years. I've signed the paycheck. I know what it's like to put people to work. I know how hard it is to keep them to work, especially in down cycles. The U.S. Small Business Administration, the American Small Business Administration, indicates that $1.75 trillion each year is charged to small businesses in terms of regulation. There are over 200 additional regulations currently under consideration, and each one of those 200 additional regulations are going to cost small businesses $100 million a year. Added up, ladies and gentlemen, the government has gotten in the way of small business through overregulation, and that is holding the growth back of our country.
Mr. Carter, you have a rebuttal?
Well, from what I've heard tonight, endorsements by big business organizations that endorsed him because he favors tax cuts for the wealthy. He wants to deregulate. Tax cuts for the wealthy. Let's deregulate. Let's double down on trickle down. Sounds like the same old failed Republican policies that got us into this mess in the first place.
Next question. What is your stance on the extension of the Bush-era tax cuts? Should they all be extended, or some of them, or none of them?
Well, the tax cuts should be extended to the middle class. They should be extended to middle-class families. They should be extended to small businesses. But I do believe the wealthy should pay their fair share. The tax structure that we had under Bill Clinton, where the wealthy paid slightly more, not only did we have a surplus by the end of the Clinton years, we had one of the most robust expansion of our economy and job creation in the history of the Republic. I think making the wealthy pay their fair share is the right way to go, and that would be my approach to extending the Bush tax cuts.
Mr. Tavaglione, we got reversed here, so you'll have two to start.
Oh, I have 2 minutes?
No, you'll have
Okay.
first on the next question as well.
Well, let's say the Bush tax cuts need to be extended. We cannot afford to allow tax increases to occur in our country with the 8.5% unemployment rate nationwide that has continued for 44 months, first and foremost. I keep hearing Mark say tonight that I don't favor tax cuts on the wealthy. I don't know where he's heard that. He hasn't heard it from me, because I haven't said that. I support ensuring that the wealthy pay their fair share and that the tax loopholes and benefits are closed on the wealthy and major corporations. We need to ensure that everybody pays, however, and we need to ensure that through that system that, again, I keep saying this, we allow our economy to get back on track. Once we do that, we'll see people, we'll see our economy and people get back to work.
Mr. Takano, do you have a rebuttal?
Well, I mean, again, what you say, I don't know really we can count on much, because for someone who's taken thousands of dollars from the Koch brothers, who are shrewd businessmen, who always expect a return on their investment, I don't think we can count on you to stand up to John Boehner or Paul Ryan. I believe, you know, you're going to empower a Republican ideology in Washington, which is going to double down and trickle down.
Next question for Mr. Tavaglione. Do you support comprehensive immigration reform?
Absolutely do. You know, we have 12 million undocumented immigrants here in the United States. And to think that we're going to send all of those immigrants back is foolish. We do, however, need to give them a path to citizenship. They deserve a path to citizenship and the right, just as my mother's family and my father's family, both respectively from Italy and from Ireland, came to this country. And, but we're not going, immigration reform hasn't happened. Why has it not happened, ladies and gentlemen? Because the U.S. Congress, both parties, do not know how to work towards common solutions. And that's what I will take to Washington.
Mr. Takano?
Well, I support comprehensive immigration reform. I support, first of all, making sure that we secure our borders and our service, our immigration service is fully funded to secure our borders. Second, that we need a cost-effective way to have businesses verify who's documented or undocumented, and making sure that it's an accurate system. Third, we do need a clear pathway for people to earn their way to citizenship, especially for those people who've served in the armed services. We need a way for them to be able to gain a pathway to citizenship, but specifically people need to be able to pay back taxes or pay a penalty, go back to the end of the line, but yet be eligible to gain legal status or citizenship. Let me say that I do believe, as a teacher, that we must pass the DREAM Act. It is the humane thing to do. 2 years ago, we had a young woman who was the president of the RCC student body. She's now a student here at UCR. She's exactly the sort of person, she's an undocumented person, who benefited from Obama's deferred action decision. The Congress should put that order by President Obama into law, and I will do that as a member of Congress.
Mr. Tavaglione, response?
Yes, I do. Two things. Mark mentioned a better way to verify undocumented immigrants. Absolutely. Our current Congressman, Ken Calvert, passed E-Verify. He was the author of E-Verify. However, the Democratic Party has not made it mandatory. Why has that not happened? I will ask Mark that. Maybe he can say that in his closing remarks. E-Verify needs to be mandatory throughout the nation, first and foremost. Secondly, the DREAM Act. I'm showing my moderate side here. I believe that we should not, the federal government nor the state of California should be using our kids as pawns, our Hispanic immigrant kids as pawns to achieve a goal. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I've given millions of dollars of scholarships over the years, and I've never checked the status of a child.
Thank you. Mr. Takano, it is your turn to go first. What is your regional priority for transportation funding in the next surface transportation bill? Do you favor increasing the tax cap, gas tax, or not?
Well, I don't believe that we should be raising taxes at a time when our economy is in such a fragile state. Raising taxes on gasoline would do much to, I think, cause consumers to divert their any expendable income into automobiles. It's already too high. We need to figure out other ways to shore up the revenues that we're losing because of more efficient cars. So, my priorities locally would be just make sure that we do pass a fully funded transportation bill, that it's not halfway, so we can get people can get the engineers to plan. We can set the processes in motion to make sure that these projects get online. Let me just say that this is only going to be possible if we have common sense. We bring common sense to Congress. What's really in Congress right now is not common sense. It's a rigid Republican ideology in Washington that controls that House caucus, and that has to change.
Thank you. Mr. Tavaglione?
Well, probably the most critical element of our economy today here in Riverside County and our region is transportation infrastructure. You see it every day when you drive our roads. We have billions of dollars of projects under construction today, partially because of the Federal Transportation Act, but to a big part because of local fees that have been put on development over the years as a result of the Board of Supervisors that I have sat on for 18 years taking a proactive role to ensure that these developers pay their fair share. In addition to that, we are called a self-help county, meaning we actually fund through a 3/4% sales tax additional money that matches the federal government. And I think that would incentivize, if you will, self-help counties, more self-help counties throughout the United States to have projects that make their dollar go a lot farther.
Thank you. Mr. Sakana, you have a response?
Well, all this talk about what's been happening at the county level, is all fine and well, but the job that either one of us have to fill is how to go to Washington to represent this area and get things done in Washington. As I say, all this experience at the local level will not amount to much if this Republican majority is still empowered by John Tavaglione.
Mr. Tavaglione?
I don't know what to say. I'm going to go to Congress. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to work across party lines for the benefit of all the people in the district that I represent, no matter what their party, no matter what their race, no matter what their social background.
Mr. Takano, you are next for the first answer. Women earn 77 cents for every dollar men earn. Women have suffered more from the downturn in the economy. Women have not recovered as much as men. What can you do to improve the position of women?
Well, first of all, let me just say how proud I am that this Congress corrected the legal interpretations of the courts and passed the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act. That did. We can, do much to improve the position of women generally by making sure that there's adequate access to file complaints of discrimination, which the Lilly Ledbetter Act did do. That's going to be an important tool for us to correct anywhere there's gender discrimination. More generally, we need to just get the whole country back to work. We need to pass the American Jobs Act, get employment up generally. That's going to do more for men and women to get a Congress that can work with the president to get this country going again.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Over the past decade, I'll use a decade, it's probably a little longer than that, we have had more women within our county organization. I see Valerie Hill over here in the audience, our former undersheriff, replaced by, that's the second in the command of our Riverside County Sheriff's Department. She was replaced when she was retired by a female undersheriff. We have 5 or 6 department heads within the county of Riverside that are female. Why? Because we promote women, we promote their ability to grow within our organization. There is no such thing as discrimination against women in our organization, and I will fight for any discussion if it ever comes up in U.S. Congress.
Mr. Takano, your response?
Well, you know, the Riverside Community College District, we have, you know, aggressively looked to provide opportunities regardless of gender, regardless of race. And I'm glad that this Congress, this past Congress, finally did put teeth into the law and correct an injustice in the courts. I think I'll bring a clear philosophy of equality and justice that we need to enshrine in our laws.
Thank you. Mr. Tavaglione, if elected, what will you do to strengthen our military and ensure our veterans and their families receive benefits such as health care?
I will do anything I can to assist our veterans. As a U.S. Army veteran, I've walked in their shoes. I have many, many friends who are in the service as we speak, many friends who I spent time in the service that never came home. And we owe it to our veterans to continue to support, continue to fund, not cut our military services at a time when our world is in great crisis. We cannot afford to do that. We need to do everything we can to support our military, both those that have served and are now veterans and retired, and those that continue to serve day in and day out, both men and women in our armed forces. And I will fight like crazy to ensure that that continues.
Mr. Takano?
Well, we have, I just want to say how proud I am of our men and women who serve in the armed services, the great job that they have done, and so much was expected of them when they shipped out to harm's way in Afghanistan and Iraq. And as we welcome them back, the most important thing we can do is welcome them back to a job, welcome them back to job training. Connect their skills that they gained in the military to employers who need them. And I'm very disappointed that this Congress went home with a record number of vacation days this year and failed to pass anything to help veterans in the way I've just described. I'm going to go back to Congress to make sure that we do right by our veterans. I'm proud to say that Riverside Community College has done everything it can to help veterans transition back into educational life. I'm proud to say that one of my staff members of my campaign served in Iraq and is proudly working with my campaign to get me elected. I'm very proud of that.
Mr. Tavaglione, you have a response?
I do. I would just like to point to my right over here, over in the far by the wall to your left, and I'd like to ask the veterans that are here on behalf of John Tavaglione just to say hi and thank you, because they are here on my behalf, because they are supporting me. They know that I know. They've walked in their shoes. I have individuals here that have gold, silver stars, bronze stars, excuse me, and we can never stop caring and providing for our military, both active and retired.
Mr. Takano, citizens don't just elect congressmen, they elect lawmakers. What in your experience qualifies you to be a lawmaker? Explain.
Well, you know, I've had 22 years experience as a community college trustee. I've had 23 years as a classroom teacher. The most important thing that I think that I've learned in that experience is the common everyday concerns of the middle class, their anxieties about the future, how are they going to pay for college, and I'm going to take that experience to Washington. I know how laws such as No Child Left Behind have affected teaching and learning in the classroom, how the over-reliance on standardized testing has created a culture within the schools which is unhealthy and which is harming teaching and learning. you know, the American Congress needs a diverse group of people who can bring important points of view. I can supply that point of view ably. There are very, very few people who come to the Congress with that sort of experience. It's a unique voice that I'll bring. It'll be a teacher voice. It'll be one that's going to be important because, you know, The Economist magazine a few weeks ago or a few months ago said one of the most important things that this nation can do for its economic future security is to improve its educational system and make our educational dollars more efficient and more effective.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Marcia, could you restate the question, please?
Citizens don't just elect congressmen, they elect lawmakers. What in your experience qualifies you to be a lawmaker?
All right. Thank you. Well, again, 2 decades of being in public service. Number one, providing a tremendous amount of, with a tremendous amount of experience in dealing with all the issues that are facing our country today: energy, job losses, the economy, transportation infrastructure. Those are things that Medicare. I sit on the Inland Empire Health Plan Board that is one of the biggest providers of Medicare, Medi-Cal here in the region. In fact, they are. They're the second largest in the state of California. I sit on their board. That experience is going to go back to Washington and be applied in Washington, D.C. as we deal with these very challenging times. You add to that 25 years of the public sector, writing checks, employing people, knowing what it's like, the challenges that small businesses go through. That, coupled with my public sector experience, is going to take Washington forward when I go back.
Mr. Takano, a response?
Well, I just repeat what I said. There he goes again, talking about all this experience with county economic development, all that authority at the executive level. It really hasn't done much. We still have a 12% unemployment rate, which is among the highest in the state and the highest in the nation. I don't see how that experience in Washington is going to help us turn things around.
The last question. Mr. Tavaglione, you're first. How can you help improve the negative effect the housing crisis has had in our neighborhoods, families, and schools?
That's an excellent question. The way you allow the housing crisis to be fixed, if you will, is to keep the federal government out of it. Let the free market system work. Let me just tell you why. Something that has been authorized by this current administration is that they have allowed foreign investors, institutional investors, to come into our county, buy in bulk over 500 homes in neighborhoods that are going to be rented by absentee owners. What is that going to do to your neighborhoods, ladies and gentlemen? That's going to cause those neighborhoods to deteriorate because the owners are the ones that, the people that are living in the homes and owning those homes are the ones that are going to take pride in ownership. Our system will correct itself if we repeal or amend Dodd-Frank, number one, which is a mess. It's holding back capital into our communities. And if we allow the free market to work so that people can feel free and comfortable to invest their hard-earned dollars back into the economy.
Mr. Takano?
Well, there he goes again, talking about deregulation and Dodd-Frank.
Let's let him talk.
Oh, well, there he does go again, because all this talk about making the free market work in the housing market and all the deregulation was what got us in the mess in the first place. And it was Republican intransigence that wouldn't allow a tough person to be appointed as part of the new Consumer Protection Agency that would protect consumers from the sort of mortgage fraud that got perpetuated. What we can do right now is we can help those people who are in their homes right now, who are working and playing by the rules, trying very hard to meet their mortgage payments, refinance at lower rates. Both the President and Governor Romney agree that this should be done. Interest rates are at record lows. The Fannie and Freddie held mortgages. We can do much to help these people And the only thing that's stopping us is the partisan bickering in Washington. And I'm going to go back to Washington to work on this and fix it.
Mr. Tavaglione?
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal.
If you talk to the local real estate, residential real estate brokers in town, ladies and gentlemen, every one of them will tell you that the system is a mess because of the government. There is a 15-day supply of homes available for new buyers, first-time buyers to take advantage of. First-time buyers that are causing multiple offers that are never sold or take months to sell because of Dodd-Frank and the overregulation. It's not to say that Dodd-Frank, they didn't mean to do it well. They did it wrong, and it needs to be fixed.
Now for closing statements. Mr. Tavaglione, you're first.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. This is one thing I wanted to mention. I didn't get to say in my opening remarks, and I'll probably take my 2 minutes, but 44 years I've been married, and our honeymoon was right here at this facility. It was a Holiday Inn back then. And I just want to say thank you. You know, our country is at a crossroads, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a critical period where, and in my view, Washington, D.C., both parties have failed us. They failed us miserably. And the only way we're going to bring our country back in place is through experience. The experience, the know-how to get things done and bring people together. Number one, I know how to get people together. I know how to bring them together. I know how to get an economy going again and produce jobs. My track record proves it. I know how to create energy. Look at what's happening to our energy system. You're spending $4.40 some at the tank because of one of the reasons is the Keystone Pipeline needs to be approved. We need to allow energy to continue to grow in California and become independent on our nation. And I will take that leadership to Washington, D.C. to ensure that we turn our country around, most importantly, through bipartisan efforts. That is why I'm going. I want to improve and save the future for my 2 grandchildren, your children and grandchildren. That's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Takano, your closing statement.